All right, we are live. Welcome everybody back to the Verified Show. I'm your host, Scott Olson. I am very excited to have Alexander here with us today. We are going to talk about a very cool project that he's been working on. First, when we met him at ETH Global, we got a really good taste about the technology that he was kind of utilizing and how it pertains to the scalability of Solidity development and Ethereum. And we're going to talk a little bit about hackathons, kind of the good, the bad, the ugly. And a lot more great things. So happy to have you on the show, Alex. How are you doing?
Great, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's get right into it. So I know we met at ETH Global at the hackathon, but I want to first kind of share with our audience a little bit about you, your background, and then I like to always start the show off with what was that moment that got you to be intrigued enough to become a developer in blockchain? Why did you come into the Web3 world? I'd love to hear about your story and what got you intrigued about that.
Well, of course, my experience in Web3 started a couple of years ago when I was exploring where I can emerge my software architecture experience and get involved in more decentralized technologies. And I've firstly started with smart contracts. I was learning Solidity, doing some small projects, and then I realized that the Web3 actually is not just Solidity or blockchain. It's more like a community, especially regarding the contribution, regarding to collaboration and sharing values. So the natural evolution, I would say, was to try to participate in some hackathons. And like we mentioned before, I've chose the ETH Global at that moment. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome to hear, because there's a lot of chains out there, right? And they have their own various programming languages, Ethereum being Solidity, but there's other chains, you can get into Rust, other type of virtual machines. I guess you kind of said it well. Ethereum is where the community's at. We have Elay are very advocates towards Ethereum kind of doubling down because this is where you see a lot of the developers, especially those that are coming from Web 2 that are looking into the Web3 space. By nature, they kind of gravitate towards learning Solidity. Ethereum becomes kind of that starting point. And I think it's probably, in my opinion, the most prominent chain that allows for true scalability as we kind of move forward in our ecosystem with some of the technologies and tooling that we're allowing to make that a reality. And yes, ETH Global was great. We love hackathons. You and I were talking a little bit about before we started this, but we'd love to kind of get your take on, hackathons are very interesting. We have hacker houses and hackathons, and we always attract developers. I know like the next big one, I believe, will be at ETH Denver. What do you feel like is the trajectory of hackathons? What could be improved? Because what I've heard is developers are getting a little bit, I wouldn't say annoyed, but it's the same thing. They come on in, you have your kind of the same people that build, they win their prize money, they end up leaving, they don't actually stay on the protocol or continue to use the tool. And it's kind of a rinse and repeat. I would love to kind of hear your perspective from as a dev who's done lots of hackathons, what you see could be an improvement or even a game changer that we might be able to look into to kind of improve and better encapsulate what hackathons are we would like them to be.
Well, I would probably start by saying that the ETH Global's hackathons are really good. At least for me at this point, I can say that I'm very fascinating about them because they are blend of intense focus, innovations, and community, also very great. And there are always so many people that have brightest ideas that challenge the blockchain limitations and innovate. So it's great. But of course, as you mentioned, there are some drawbacks. Like there are people who probably know how to win these hackathons, and they always take big prizes. But still, there is a lot of place for others, for new members and developers as well. especially with sorry, I forgot. Especially with companies who I just left my mind. How they called?
You talking about like companies with VCs or like
Sponsors? Yeah, sorry, sponsors. Like
Yeah.
each hackathon mostly have the same sponsors, yes, but there are some sponsors that came and go. So it's not everyone every time everywhere you see the same functionality, same sponsors. Like for the last one when we met, I learned about Vilea. Because previously on Singapore, where I was, there were no Vilea at that time on hackathon. So it was nice to get some new technology to learn about it and use it. And yeah, so there are still some drawbacks and plus points, but it's still interesting.
Yeah, well, there will always be an attraction for developers to go to these. I mean, obviously the biggest one are bounties, right? I mean, who doesn't want to earn and win money? But I think there's so much more that we can expand on. I mean, even just with the notion of what is product market fit. You know, you get tools and you have the ability to build something, but sometimes you get engineers that come together and then they end up just over engineering a product. And then they take it to market, right? And the market isn't receptive towards it, or they try to get it funded and they go talk to VCs, and VCs are like, all right, what's your recurring revenue model, you know, or monetization strategy, or even just, you know, a simple pitch deck on how to be able to convey what you've built from a market product perspective can be quite challenging. And I think putting more emphasis into the hackathon around that, whether it's through workshops, could be very highly effective. But yeah, I totally agree. I think what ETH Global did, they did a phenomenal job. We're big fans of them, and we're excited for the next one. So I want to kind of get into what you built. It's a very cool idea. I'll summarize it a bit. You know, you can automate workflows for Web3 apps, but here's your chance. We'd love to kind of hear a little bit more and let you elaborate on kind of the idea behind why you decided to build something like Action Flow. And if you wouldn't mind kind of talking a little bit more granular as to what it does. Yeah, we'd love to kind of hear your thoughts on all that.
Great. Of course, the project was called the project is called Action Flow. It's a low-code automatization platform that allows developers and users, probably with no knowledge of coding, to build automated flows, like if this then that. It has triggers and actions that allow the platform and users to create interesting processes. Like for us, we planned to present on the hackathon several cases. But one of them was to follow X posts, particularly Elon Musk's posts about DOGE. And if new post arrives, then we plan to buy some DOGE tokens at that moment. In addition to this, we had a use case when we were following some transactions, like if someone buys more than 10,000 tokens, then we also buy or sell. And we were able to do it by simply creating several steps, like action, trigger, connecting them, and then everything builds automatically. Like the platform generates the Solidity contracts. We have pre-built patterns for the off-chain provers and the workers that exactly fetch off-chain data in order to be verified later.
Yeah, I remember when you told me, the whole Elon Musk example of following him on X. I mean, you can kind of gamify this a bit too, which is pretty cool. But I mean, the verifiability of that, I mean, the use cases kind of expand beyond just that, but you kind of just hit the surface starting point, if you will. And I see that you use web proofs as a kind of part of why you decided to build this. Love to kind of hear more about what your thoughts are on web proofs, and any other features of within vLayer's tooling, but specifically on web proofs and why you decided to use that with Action Flow.
Yeah, vLayer was groundbreaking for us, especially for this platform, because the functionality that we particularly used was web proofs. It allowed us to build these processes to verify data, private data, without making it public, which is a challenge, especially now for the Solidity that does not access to the private data. They have Oracle. Solidity have access through Oracles, but it's mostly public data, not private. So web proofs, it's game changing, and it allowed us to build this idea.
Yeah, I mean, I love it just as much as you do. I mean, you said it well. I mean, we're used to Oracle's. Shout out to Chainlink, love what they've done. But yeah, it is public data, and we often ask it questions around, are you like an alternative to Oracle's? And we're very complementary. We're never there's not a competition by any means. But you mentioned that the private off-chain or private data in Web2 that we just don't have access to. But because of the what's been built out here is made accessible, and it opens up the world for a Solidity developer to be able to build things and to access things, particularly as it means for data that they otherwise didn't have access to, other than just what we've been used to, which would be Oracle's. What have you like kind of getting into as a Solidity developer? You've been developing in Solidity for a couple of years. What have you seen some of the limitations within Solidity development from your perspective?
Well, I don't have huge experience, but based on what I've did and what I've faced, I would say that there are a couple of things at least. Like for instance, the scalability. Of course, there are a lot of libraries and there is interfaces that can be used, but it's still a challenge, especially for big projects to scale their smart contracts. And the second one, like I mentioned before, it's getting access to the real world data. It's possible for through oracles, but mostly the public data, and it limited by like DeFi information or general information that does not always enough for the projects.
Yeah. And that's going to be very important as we kind of continue to expand beyond Solidity in terms of its functionalities and capabilities. But it's projects like yours that you've built that can prove and show what you can do and what you're capable of, or what's capable of being built with vLayer's tooling, which I think we're very proud that you were able to utilize it. We'd love to hear kind of your DevX, your developer experience within it. Like when you first learned web proofs and you kind of got into the code, like walk us through, like, was it a huge learning curve, or was it something that you really kind of understood and it was very practical? And but yeah, we'd love to get more insight on the DX.
Well, I have to mention that I wasn't alone on this project, so it was a little bit like also scattered among our members, like different roles, different parts of the functionality. But in general, I would say it was quite understandable, and the documentation that we had sometimes had lacks of information. But since we were at hackathon, and there were people from vLayer who were able to give more information, give some advice. It was very helpful, and we managed to build what we planned to do.
Mm-hmm. Good. And then to those that are watching, I'm going to link the GitHub repo project below for anybody that's interested in kind of looking at it. But yeah, Alex, is there anything that you would like to share with those that are watching? Anything that they can, if they're interested in learning more or getting to know more about you, like what would you like to be able to provide them or offer them?
Well, I would definitely would like to see people and the community growing around the action flow, because action flow is a really great tool and can be very helpful in future. Maybe become a go-to tool for automation. But unfortunately, at this point, it's at a very low stage, and we need more contributors, like for developers and financial help. So if someone would be able to fund us, we will be they are welcome. Uh, they can send some funds to actionflow.eth, which would be used to build the community around this tool.
Yeah, we're all about helping out our developer community any way we can, because it's without you devs that we won't have real world applications, right? We won't see true adoption with this technology, and but it starts at the developer layer, and it also starts with good tooling. And we at VLay are very proud to be able to obviously very excited for you to win as one of our winners, but more importantly, what you're able to utilize and build with our tools is pretty exciting. So again, those that are interested, you can take a look at the project itself. We'll have it linked below. And like you heard of, any ways that you would want to contribute, help them out, and the team, it would be phenomenal. And if you're also interested in trying us out, head over to vlayer.xyz and you can kind of start to look at our docs and get started. Again, we'd love to hear your feedback. You can write in the comments below and tell us what you think. But other than that, appreciate your time, Alex, and happy holidays, my friend.
Thank you very much. Happy holidays.